It's about content modeling. I don't want to introduce myself again. Hi, my name is Dominique. I'm a co-founder of a web agency based in Luzern, and basically we do content and user-centric stuff. So we are engineers, but we work for content and we work for people, so we love to understand why we do our engineer task. Just want to start with a small, it's not really a game, it's just a few questions for you, because it's really important for me to know my audience, so to know who you are. And I think it's important for you when you start a project to know what are your users, what is your target group, who is in front of you, what they need and stuff like this. So, question one, any content strategist around? Yeah, cool. I feel really more comfortable because I'm not a content strategist, and I will try to give you some tricks about content strategy. I'm a content fellow. I love content. I don't come from the marketing side. I come from the database. But I move in the direction of the user during the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And it just matched the point of time where I meet NEOS. Before NEOS, I was the kind of back-end stuff, and when I start to speak with the end user will feel quite awkward, like, oh, what? I don't understand this guy. And I think our industry suffers from this kind of bad naming of stuff, wrong vocabulary, pushing technical stuff to our end user, and basically we fail a lot as transferring knowledge from the client to the structure, to the content, and from the engineer team to the end user. And I think content strategy is somehow a lot about this. It helped a lot my company to understand the project, to see the complexity. And basically content inventory starts with a huge list of post-it on the wall where you make visible what kind of content you have. Currently, it's not what you want to have in 10 years, it's what you have today, where you come from. And my company learned a lot during this workshop, but most of the time the client learned also a lot. Yes, we remember 2 years ago we started this project about documentation to help end user, but we never finish it, but it's somewhere. So you had a line in the Excel sheet, like we have some kind of really cool documentation somewhere. It's important. Did any of you start a project by doing some kind of content inventory with your client? Or as a client, do you use content inventory before starting a web project? Yes, no, raise your hand, be brave. Yeah, not that bad. But basically, NEOS is a CMS. And the C in the CMS is for content. It's a content management system. If you start a project without knowing your content, it feels a bit strange for me. It's a bit like, I want a car. How many wheels do you need on the car? Oh, I don't care. I just want a car, you know, to go somewhere. You don't really know what you have to build this project. It's quite easy to call your agency and say, I want a quote to do this website. You know, it's just a simple structure with some content and text and some random stuff on it. But no, I cannot give you a quote for this, because I need to know you better. So now, before every project, we organize a workshop with the client. It's a small project before the big one. This project has a single small invoice. It's not extremely expensive. The client can decide, I don't want to work with this agency, it feels so awkward, and they can move somewhere else. It's really something like a gift. They can take the report and work with other agencies. Who is an editor who works mainly on creating content? Oh, we have this one. It's like in the NEOS team, we don't have a lot of people that create content. Who is the IT guy, low-level stuff that never see the editors? Nobody, fine. That's not the target of my talk, so it's pretty cool. Who is the manager who managed the editors? and define deadline and start to push editors to make something happening. Awesome. So most of you work for a web agency, or are you end user for CMS? End user? A lot of web agencies. I speak to myself. That's an important thing about this talk. And it's really important things about content strategy at all. Content strategy is tool agnostic. Basically, content strategy is something that can impact the complete company. That can be used by the support team, but that can be used by the marketing team, that can be used by the research and development team. So it's really something extremely abstract. And if you create such strategy, you hope that this strategy will be used for a few years, maybe a decade. If you attach this strategy to the tools, if the hype change and the tool disappear, your strategy disappear, or you need to adapt your strategy. So that's why content strategy are really, really attached to not promote any kind of tools. And I don't want to promote any kind of tools in this talk. I just have one feeling from my experiences. I start with modeling. The modeling happened after the content inventory, so I know what I have. And now we start discussing what we want to have in the future on the website. It's two different processes. The inventory is done, so we have some kind of feeling on the stock of content that we have. And now we start dreaming. We start, okay, but can we split this kind of content in smaller pieces? Can we name the content differently? Did some name fit better your business or stuff like this? And we start to define content name, content property, going deeper in the details. But it's really about the future. And when you have that, you know what your CMS need to do. You have somehow the content specification of your CMS. And it's not the correct time to choose some kind of tools. Just avoid tools that make it hard to apply the content modeling you just did. If some tools just support text and headline, it will be quite difficult to apply a content modeling on top of them. But many tools out there are quite flexible, and NEOS is one of those two. So yes, don't use bad tools that kill your efforts. On the continuing stock with a little story, I'm a client, I come to an agency, I think, okay, I have a website, it feels quite old, it had been done 10 years ago. I want to relaunch it. It lacks some information about products that we have now. So it's a bit outdated, technically, but also content-wise. It happened quite often. So as an agency, the first information I get from this page is what? Your website lacks information. I can understand that your website is not responsive. It was built 10 years ago, and 10 years ago we don't have any smartwatch, phone, whatever, so it's okay to be outdated technically. But why your website lack information about content? Most of the time it's, oh, I don't know, the tools was the man at the marketing department that know the tools was not on the company anymore, we lose the password and we don't know how to publish stuff on it. Or it's extremely difficult to publish some new stuff, so we don't do it. So that's really the correct time to do something. And yet another concept of the content strategy. Once you have your content inventory in your content modeling, you can start to define content ownership. If you publish your content today on the content management system, you are, as a company, responsible to maintain this content. It's up to date today, it's outdated. It can be outdated in a week, it can be outdated in a year, but you are responsible to get back to your tools a year later and change what has been outdated. So content ownership is something really important in an organization. It's not about publishing more content, it's about maintaining the content you have online. Oh, again, content inventory. I speak enough about content inventory currently. Oh, sorry, I don't have my notes here. Yes. By modeling when you model your content, one interesting aspect is that some content can be reused. I don't know why we think like this, but most of us, when we start a task, we think about the final work. For example, if I want to publish an interview of my website, the first thing I see, it's a really nice page with some question in bold and some answer, and that's it. And it's fine. The question has been published in an interview, I publish an interview, so I create a page, and I open my editor, and I bold on the question and stuff like this, and it's fine. It works. It's an interview. But you spend time for building a single thing. If you spend a bit more time, like Robert said this morning, if you don't publish a single document, but try to publish not a text element, but a question and answer element, it's not a lot of difference. When you are in your backend, you can click on create new content, and you don't select text, but you select question and answer because you want an interview. The rendering of the interview will not change at all, but what you gain by having this granularity is that later on, when you publish an article about, I don't know, case review, you can reuse a single question from an interview inside your article about, I don't know, a new client project that we built recently. So you start to you don't have an interview, you have a bunch of questions that can be reused in other contexts. So you can start to play like a kid with Lego bricks. Your content starts to be valuable for your company because you can reuse them and build them more complex. Another important thing about the inventory. Many clients say, I want tons of content, I want this and this and this, case study and reference and picture gallery, and we want a blog, and we want a magazine, and we want a sub-site and a landing page. It's really cool. So it's in our inventory. And you can add a new column in this huge Excel sheet. It's the effort required to publish this kind of content. If you publish a quote about Albert Einstein, it took something like 10 minutes. It's just a sentence and a name. If you want to publish a blog post, it can be 2 hours, maybe half a day. If you have a multi-language website, it can be a full day. If you publish a product review or a case study about one of your project, it can be more than 1 day to publish the content. And when you have this column filled in the inventory, you can add a new column, name how many content do you want to publish. 1 blog post per week, 1 per month, 1 every day, 1 case study per month. So you can start building this Excel sheet, and at the end you have the effort required by the client on the client side to make this website working. Because it's extremely easy when you write some website specification for an agency to be extremely positive on what you can handle. Because yes, the SEO guys say that it's really important to have a blog, we need to publish, create content, make activity on the website. Yes, but your task is to make the client aware that it has a cost in terms of effort and human resources. So that's another benefit of this content inventory. How do you model content? Like I said before, when we published this interview, we are really focused on this whole page. Start to reverse the thing. Think about atomic design. for web designer. They do exactly the same thing. 10 years ago, when we built the web page, we built a web page. That was basically what we did. And today, when we build the web page, before building the web page, we try to focus on all the components, the bricks, that will be used to build the web page. And why? Why did we reverse our way of working with web design? It's because a web page is something that exists today on the website. Tomorrow or in a year, maybe this kind of pages completely disappear. Because content has changed, we have relaunch or stuff like this. If you focus on component, this content can be reused. You can play with those components to build a new page. And a new page is just a representation of one variant of content that you can have. So we can do the same thing with content. Yes, I have an interview, so what is the part of an interview? Question and answer. What is the part of a question and answer block? It's a question and it's an answer. And what is the property of an interview? I have an interviewer and I have the guys that give me some response and I have a publication date. And so you start to have this content type that pop up. But start from the smaller and try to build something bigger on top of this. So what makes a component is that it is distinct. So a question inside an interview is really a distinct component. I don't want to publish a question on a product page. It's all inside a FAQ. Can make sense, but not on the main product page. And it's reusable. So I can play with those content to rebuild other type of content. When you have all those small block of content and the content specification, you can start to ask more technical questions. Robert showed this morning this shop integration, where it has this nice teaser element for the front page. I can insert edited product number, so you get the information from an external system. So that starts to be the functional requirement of those components. You have the content that you create on your CMS, the content that you have full access to, and some component will require some external connection to get some more metadata. The organizational requirement is what I was speaking about, the effort. How much time the auditor needs. Did I need some validation for this content? Publishing a news article can be fine. If it's a product review, maybe it's really cool if the product owner can watch them. So you can start to grow the understanding of your content. Content attributes are really the low-level stuff. It's the property at the lower level. An address is a street, additional street, zip number, and this is really the details. So we are quite at the database level somewhere where I come from. So now we have all those legal on the floor, and you can start to build what content strategists call assembly model. For a designer, it's a wireframe. How, from my small bricks, what can I build from my small bricks? From this product, I want to build a teaser, and a teaser is a title, and thing like this. So you're only focused on content, not rendering, not order of element and stuff. But when the assembly model is done, you can give this document to a designer, and the designer can build wireframe on top of it. Because it exactly knows what kind of content it will have, what kind of property it can display, and it's really the design specification that start to pop up from your content inventory. And next, content template, let the designer do some really nice stuff with all those content specification. This is the quite old version of Neos, but it always looked like this, because like Robert said, we don't love adding too much button on that. It's the inline editing. if you speak with the content strategist about inline editing, most of them get out and just jump from the window. They hate inline editing for many reasons, for many good reasons. It's really cool to be able to edit this. It's not bad, but it has some drawbacks. Imagine a media company, a TV, broadcaster, press, or stuff like this. Most of them have some advertising of video or animated stuff on the left column. As an editor, it's extremely awkward to edit content when something moves on the page or some advertising appears in front of me. On this area, we have this feature named Edit Preview. It's the in place that is before, but now we are in the raw content, and you can add more content here. Here I'm only able to focus on content. So as an editor, I'm really comfortable. I will not try to remove one word from the title because it uses a line break on the web page, and it's really not cool for an editor to make the content specific based on the rendering, because the rendering can be a watch, and I promise this title will use multiple lines on a watch. It's just a watch. It's quite small. So this kind of raw content mode can make editor really more focused on content, and they took less attention about the design. And it is really important because if you relaunch your website, you can do a design relaunch, but you keep your content. If all your content has been edited for a single design, it will require some job during the relaunch to recheck if everything is okay. And you should not adapt the design for the content. It's to think completely differently. The content is here to transfer meaning to your client. The design is here to make reading the content in a nice way and to make the experience of browsing the content really cool. And by the way, you can create as many editing modes as you want. So by example, if I'm here currently working on a product description, I can have some kind of application on the right that gives me more information about the specification of the product. That even connects to a CRM to say, okay, this product is used by 80% of our clients, so it looks like this content is really important. So you can make this editing more meaningful based on what content you are editing currently. That's the same plugin that Robert said before. It's a preview, so you cannot edit the content anymore. And on the right, it's the tone analysis from IBM Watson. And it's completely tuned for the client requirement. It's not a CMS plugin with tons of features. I just received some JSON, and I can display some dashboard based on what makes sense for me. I think Watson delivers something like 12 value here. Most of them doesn't make sense for most editors, so you can focus on small stuff. And this is the same plugin. This one makes an analytics on the full content of the document. So it's really an overview of the tone of the document. But for a big document, it can be misleading because it's just a machine, it's just probability, and if you have 3,000 lines of characters, it can be hard to say, but why I'm so angry in this document? So now I'm back in place editing. I can select the text. I'm just editing this part of the text. And here I have the same analytics, but only for this part. So now I can say that, okay, it looks like this content doesn't have any two hanger tones. And I can really start to work on, and this one needs to be adapted based on our requirement. It's our blog post, and in our blog post we don't want to be, I don't know, too technical or too analytical. On our marketing product description, we don't want to be analytical. It's not about being analytical, it's about being emotional and stuff like this. So this kind of helper can really help your editor to create more meaningful content. So really, if you have one thing to learn or to remember from this talk, you cannot do any content creation if you don't know your audience. You cannot speak with the kids like you speak with an old boy of 85 years old. It doesn't share the same value, it doesn't have the same amount of energy, it doesn't require the same thing. So really, knowing your audience is an important topic. And when you know your audience, think that to be even more complex, because a single company will not have a single audience. It would be too easy. Your product can be interesting for kids, can be interesting for me, can be interesting for someone from Japan, and we all have really different sensibility and requirement and stuff. Let's speak really this morning about this content dimension thingy as an abstract localization feature. We deliver Neos 1.0 without localization feature. That was quite fun to launch a product in an industry that is really crowded by a lot of big themes out there, and we say we have fancy new tools, but you cannot translate content with our tools. We are sorry. But that was not because we are not able to deliver some translation feature at this point. It's just because we think that something better can be built. And we end up with the common dimension feature. So a localization, a language, is just basically a guy from Japan just that doesn't speak the same language than me. So I need to target this content to my Japanese audience because they don't speak English. But you have the same thing for Switzerland people. Or imagine you are selling something in Iran or Lebanon, and you just need to change a picture, because you know that this really nice picture of your cars with, I don't know, whatever around the car will just hurt people in Lebanon. So you would just need another picture. It's not localization. You cannot say I translate my image. I just make the image more specific for some part of my audience. And at the end, you can have a target audience. Okay, I know that this visitor is a customer. If it's a customer, don't try to sell them the same product that they have by a week before. You can improve your own page to be focused on support and documentation around your product, and not trying to sell more to this guy that just buys something. And you can stack more content dimension if you want. But that's something that we need to think about a lot. More dimension you have, more content you have to manage. And remember, I speak about this content ownership. If you are the owner of an interview, it's quite easy to get back 1 year later to just be sure that everything is always valid. But if you are the owner of an interview that is translated in 10 languages, targeted for 5 countries, with 3 to 5 target audience, this single interview become 25 or maybe 30 different documents. And you can go back to your Excel sheet and change the effort required to publish and maintain this article. So it's an extremely powerful feature, but take care. The client needs to have the manpower to handle this variation of content. And when you have a good overview of the content, you can start to build navigation. I see so many projects starting with creating a navigation without having any clue about what will end up in the website. And that's freaking crazy. Like, we need to reverse this. Navigation cannot be done on day 2 of the project. It can only be done when you have more knowledge about where you go. That's an interesting thing also. Content inventory is not fixed. Your type of content will change, evolve, you will add property, multiple. And if you remember the screenshot of the NEOS UI, there's a lot of discussion around this content first. Can I push my editor at day 2 of the project, so really early in the project? Can they log in on the CMS and start to create content? Oh no, you know, I don't have a template, so they basically cannot log in the CMS. It will explode in their face. Or, oh no, it's too early, we will change so many things on the CMS that will explode at some point. No, go first, go content first. With this raw content editing, basically you don't need any design effort. It's just install the CMS, configure it, create user account, and publish content. And they can basically not create all the content. We are at the beginning of the project. Maybe the content inventory is big like this. But you can start working on some of them. Even if the content are not exactly stored at the correct place in the tree, fine, we can move that later. But start to publish stuff, start to train the editor to use the CMS, start to have feedback from your editors. It's really important. I think during 20 years, the CMS industry just forgot one important thing. Some guys spend their whole day in the CMS interface. Those guys work from 9 to 5, creating content on the system. And so many tools are not built to make their life easier. So onboard those guys really early in the process. I don't really care about the manager saying, I want to have this form like this, like this. No. This information needs to come from the editor. If something is broken in the project, they can just send me a small message on Slack, say, oh, it's really awkward when I want to create this content. I have 2 or 3 clicks to do, and maybe we can improve something. By the way, we are in the middle of the project. We can change stuff. So having everybody on board can help you deliver a better project. And that's exactly content first thingy. That's the review, Robert. Anyhow, I just want to print some t-shirt as this one because I love it. I'm an engineer, but I'm not proud of all the project I did. Most of the time that was because of the content. I spent hours building some really cool and really nicely designed infrastructure to host content. And at the end you look at the product and say, oh, something doesn't work. It can be the design, but it can also be the content. So basically my work is meaningful if I don't have really good content on it. I cannot get a new customer to say, oh, can you see the last project we did? Yes, I know the design is extremely ugly and the content is crappy, but we did a really good job. It's not possible. And if you pass by Lausanne, feel free to ping us. We are on Twitter, we are on Slack in the NEOS group, by mail or whatever. We have good coffee, and it's a nice place, just at 2 minutes from the train station. It's quite easy if you're there. Feel free to ping us, and thank you. And we even have support for animated GIFs, so your editor will feel quite happy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Stefan. I've introduced him already, but I will, since it starts to rain, I will tell you a Cambodian joke. All my Cambodian friends always tell me the weather is not bad in Cambodia, we're just suffering from the weather from the other countries. And I just thinking maybe that's the case for us today as well. Maybe the bad weather is coming from France or from Germany.
So, wieder in Deutsch. Das nächste Mal mache ich englische Slides, versprochen. Ich freue mich, einen zweiten Case vorstellen zu dürfen. Dieses Mal EIZO Schweiz. EIZO, denke ich, kennen wir mal alle. Kurz durch, dieses Projekt haben wir vorletztes Jahr umgesetzt mit NEOS und haben letztes Jahr dann auch die Ehre, den Bronze Award, NEOS Award zu gewinnen mit diesem Projekt. Da sind wir sehr stolz drauf. Wir dürfen es zeigen, weil das Team, das jetzt bei WebAccess arbeitet, nahezu das gleiche ist wie bei Dotpals für das EIZO-Projekt. EIZO. EIZO ist der Hersteller für hochqualitative Bildschirme. Was viele aber nicht wissen, ist, dass es nicht einfach Grafiker-Bildschirme sind, sondern die haben auch spezialisierte Geräte für Flight Control Systeme oder die Medizin. Also es gibt wirklich sehr spezialisierte Anwendungsbereiche und so auch ein sehr breites Angebot. Wir konnten eine in die Tage gekommene Webseite ablösen und das Ziel war, dass wir das komplette System für EIZO Schweiz neu entwerfen. Das Ziel war, wirklich benutzerzentriert heranzugehen, so wie es der End-User dann wirklich braucht, und einen umfangreichen Product Finder zu implementieren, damit man aus diesem großen Arsenal an Bildschirmen wirklich den finden kann, den man selbst wirklich benötigt. Das natürlich verknüpft mit einem kompletten Online-Shop, also mit komplett allen Online-Shop-Funktionalitäten, die man irgendwie mal braucht. Und dahinter versteckt sich noch ein Händler-Login. Das heißt, die Schweizer Händler, die EIZO-Produkte vertreiben, bestellen üblicherweise ihre Produkte direkt über dieses Portal und haben hier auch Händler- und tagesabhängige Preise hinterlegt. Das ist noch relativ umfangreich. Das Ganze natürlich responsive und alles kommt Content. Hier, wir haben uns wieder für NEOS entschieden. Im Extremfall, wir haben das komplette Shop-System. Alles, was ihr seht, ist komplett nur in NEOS entwickelt. Das hörte sich am Anfang auch etwas einfacher an, als was es dann am Ende auch war. Es folgten doch im Laufe des Projektes immer weitere Features, wo man ehrlich gesagt auch von Beginn weg gewisse Shop-Systeme direkt integrieren hätte können und dann mit mehreren Systemen parallel arbeiten hätte können. Einfach als Hint, wenn ihr Angst habt, dass das Projekt zu groß werden könnte, evaluiert nochmals. Nicht, dass das nicht falsch gewesen wäre, das Endergebnis ist schon echt cool. Wir haben einen sehr umfangreichen Filter, das ist der Product Finder, alles in einem, kennen wir von anderen Shops. Ich sage einfach, schaut ihn euch an, ich komme später noch darauf zurück. Und wir haben natürlich übliche Produktdetailseiten. Komplett ausprogrammiert mit Rabattpreisen oder Aktionen, Sonderangebote etc. Vieles wird synchronisiert aus ihren Systemen, ist aber über das NEOS Backend auch definierbar. Jedes Produkt hat extrem viele Informationen mit Features und enorm viele Spezifikationsparameter, die ich alle detailliert anschauen kann und natürlich, ich kann sie in den Warenkorb legen. Macht Sinn. Im Backend sieht es nicht viel anders aus. Wir haben das Slideshow deaktiviert, dass man schneller auf die Videos und Bilder zugreifen kann. Aber wir klicken einfach in die Produktbeschreibung rein, editieren, können auch die Properties direkt inline anpassen. Nettes Spiel. Ist ein Hack von uns, dass das inline funktioniert bereits mit dieser Version. In einer der nächsten Versionen kann man das dann offiziell editieren. Wie man im Inline-Bereich weitere Widgets anbindet. Auch hier, alles ist ein Node, also jedes Produkt ist ein Node-Typ. Die Kategorien sind alles Nodes, es ist alles klar strukturiert anhand dieses Seitenbaums und zusätzlichen Referenzierungen im Inspektor bei den Produkten. Das ist der Vorteil, dass wir alles in einem System gelöst haben, weil wenn der Kunde einmal verstanden hat, wie funktioniert es, wie editiere ich den Inhalt, den Text, wie erstelle ich Referenzen, wie mache ich die strukturierten Dinge, dann kann er alles schlussendlich editieren daran. Also die Lernkurve ist sehr steil, also sehr schnell hat man sehr viel gelernt. Und wir haben so auch die Möglichkeit zum Klassiker, Features. Nicht jedes Produkt hat eigene Features, viele gehen da über Produkte hinweg. Die sind zentral verwaltet und können dann bei den einzelnen Produkten einfach ausgewählt eingebunden werden. Aber selbst da, ich habe ein neues Produkt erstellt, die weiteren Marketingtexte ergänzt und sehe in einem Feature drin, das ich ausgewählt habe, oh, das ist ein Tippfehler. Ich kann direkt auf ein Produkt schnell reinklicken, editieren und fertig. Dann ist es gleich für alle Produkte mit diesem Feature übernommen. Wegen dem Filter, der Product Finder. Wir haben extrem viele Properties zu jedem Produkt. Diese alle im Filter anzuzeigen, macht einfach keinen Sinn. Man erschlägt den Kunden, also den Endkunden, der das hoffentlich einen Bildschirm kaufen will. Sagen wir, EIZO die Möglichkeit gegeben, den Filter komplett eigenständig zu bearbeiten. Also Sie können wählen, ich möchte diese Filterthemen komplett ausgeben lassen in diesem Tab, in dieser Gruppierung. Sie können sagen, ich möchte diese Themen gruppieren, dass man das im Filter einfach nicht jedes Detail ausgibt, sondern Sie können auch einzelne Filter entwerfen, also Filtermöglichkeiten entwerfen, die Sie den Produkten ergänzen können. Also Dinge, die man vielleicht als Endkunde sucht und versucht zu filtern, aber eigentlich keine expliziten Properties sind von einem Produkt. Also das ganze Frontend ist komplett editierbar. Und vorher haben wir die strukturierte Ansicht gesehen. Wir haben Produkte, wir haben Kategorien, Produkttypen und schlussendlich die Produkte selbst. Wir haben aber auch die verschiedenen Anwendungsfälle. Diese sind parallel dazu hinterlegt auf den Produkten und können auf eigenen Landingpages sehr einfach ausgegeben werden und hier dann mit spezifischen Contents zu den einzelnen Themen noch weiter angereichert werden. Es gibt eigentlich, wahrscheinlich bin ich jetzt viel zu schnell wieder, aber es gibt noch so viel zu erzählen über dieses Produkt. Was mir wichtig ist zu sagen, ist, überlegt, also gerade nach diesem Talk ist es noch hart, überlegt, welchen Content habt ihr und wo liegt der aktuell? Wir hatten jetzt da das Ziel, ein System mit einem System abzulösen und binden eigentlich nur die tagesaktuellen Daten anhand von Artikelnummern dynamisch ein. Es kann aber Sinn machen und viele Kunden haben auch bereits umfangreichere Datenbanken, diese direkt einzubinden. Also es hätte durchaus auch eine Möglichkeit. Ja, that's it. Schaut euch die Seite mal an und wenn ihr Fragen habt, zeigt gerne mir. Fragen? Es war mehrstufig, also wir haben es nicht mit der kompletten Lösung live gegangen, sondern ich denke, die initiale Phase ging über ein halbes Jahr, denke ich, und dann all in, bis alles umgesetzt und mit schon den ersten Layout-Änderungen wieder, müssen es sicher 1,5 Jahre. Also war schon ein längeres Projekt aus mehreren Gründen, aber es ist doch auch sehr umfangreich.
Dieser Referenzeditor, den du da in Fluid eingesetzt hast, ist das irgendwo dokumentiert?
Welcher? Das Inline?
Noch zurück, ja, wo du Inline im Backend Referenzen machen kannst.
Nein. Ist eigentlich auch gar nicht so schwer. Also dahinter steckt ein Inline-Editing-Field und davor ist HTML, CSS und JavaScript. Also du kannst das ja eigentlich über das Inline-Editing-Field legen und musst dann mit den Events spielen im JavaScript, dass du das Feld dazu bekommst, dass es dann wirklich auch abspeichert, den du änderst. Ich würde mich da aber nicht zu tief rein steigern, weil muss dann lieber dem Core-Team helfen, die nächste Backend-Geschichte vorwärts zu treiben. Ja, ja. Dort ist es angedacht, dass es wirklich per API erweitert werden kann.
Ja, cool. Ist das dann abhängig vom React UI von 9? Das ist das die Voraussetzung?
Ja.
Ich habe eine Frage bezüglich dem Filter im Frontend. Greifst du da direkt auf eine API in Neos zu oder wird da irgendwie Elasticsearch oder was Ähnliches eingesetzt?
Hier haben wir noch keine Zeile mit Elasticsearch aktiv. Nichts. Das sind alles nur Referenzhinweise vom Inspector aus. Oder quer. Es gibt genug Optimierungspotenzial, gerade Thema Performance. Ist aber noch offen. Ich denke, das war's. Sonst anschließend können wir gerne noch mehr Details zeigen. Dankeschön.
Okay. Bevor wir zur Kaffeepause kommen, darf ich schon vorkommen. Before we come to the coffee break, we see one other showcase. That's about allgemeine Baugenossenschaft Luzern.
A nice name.
Yeah. And the speaker, well, I thought there was one speaker, now there are two, but that's okay. So one speaker, he's quite young.
The other is old.
Yeah, that's it.
The other one too, yes. And yeah, their company is called EIZO, but talking about that one speaker, I met him at the conference, and you know, like sometimes when you are in an international gathering and you just hear out a Swiss person, you know. So I just jumped at him. Oh, you're from Switzerland and so on, and we talked, and he was saying like, yeah, you know, I have this company, but I don't have much time. So, you know, I'm not so serious about it, right? But actually, recently, I met him again at the conference. He said, "No, you know, now I'm really serious about it, and actually we're growing, and Jonas is joining me, and so." And I looked a bit at their website, what sort of projects they have, and it's like University of Luzern, and allgemeine Baugenossenschaft, like 5th largest Baugenossenschaft in Switzerland. So I think he was a bit, what's the word? Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe he didn't take his company not serious, and I think he was just joking with me about it. Yeah.
Actually, I wasn't at the time, but it's funny that you remember the conversation because I forgot about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm truly impressed by what you guys are doing, and the name is Lorenz Ulrich and Jonas Renggli, and yeah, up to you, Case.
Thank you very much. So this is our logo. That's got a little bit too big, I guess. And this is us, it's Jonas and me. We're both from Luzern and working in Luzern with our small agency that was founded 10 years ago. We found out that we have something to celebrate this year, just today. We started with Type 3 CMS, as a lot of you guys, I think, did once. We were active in the community, in digital asset management, and media management a little bit, and we were relatively early adopters of NEOS and Flow, because, I mean, there was this stage in NEOS where you really had to believe in the product, because you wouldn't know if it would become a success or not. And we always believed the guys who said they are going to build a great content management system, and now I think it was right to believe in that. At the moment we are doing both NEOS and Flow projects and Type 3 CMS projects. We select the right tool for the right project, which is more and more shifting towards NEOS, of course. The project we're talking about is, as Dominique mentioned, is allgemeine baugenossenschaft Luzern. It's the 5th largest building cooperative, so they're building apartments that are affordable mostly. They have 11,000 members and more than 2,000 apartments in and around Luzern. And they have a very special system of assigning the apartments to members. So it's not just first come, first serve, or most money, you have the best chances. It's the earlier you enter the cooperative, the more chances you get. You have to get an apartment, and the more of capital, up to a certain limit, of course, you have put into the cooperative, the better your chances are. So this is a very specific requirement they had, and because no business software could build or could work with this requirement, especially back in 1996, I guess, or when they wanted to do it with an ICT solution, they built their own software, which was called BG Soft. Yeah, we all remember the colors and the resolution, I guess. And this software evolved into another product called BOVAX, which was also a proprietary system. And now they decided to migrate to Abacus, which is very well known in Switzerland. And there was a special problem. The thing was that Abacus couldn't handle this workflow of assigning apartments to members, because it's just a too specific case, and it's very specific. Only this corporation, only Abel, does it that way. But Abel provides a SOAP web service. It's better than nothing. And they also provide IDX interface, which is a standard also used by ImmoScout or HomeGate to make available apartments in an XML format. So we were invited to pitch for the project, and we said, okay, that's a great thing, because it's an application and it's a website, because at the same time they also wanted to rework and redo their website because it was a little outdated by then and non-responsive. So we went to them and said, okay, let's do a NEOS website and let's do a Flow application. And this was our pitch. So the plan was a new responsive NEOS-based website, which shows all available apartments on the website. And so people can apply online on the website. And then we have a separate security data protection, was a little concern. We have a separate application done in Flow, a back office application where you can manage the available apartments and all the application, and then generate the rankings and send out the notifications to the members. So you got the apartment, you didn't get it, but you're on rank 3, and so on. You will see more about that. So in this showcase, we won't talk so much about NEOS, because NEOS was a little bit the smaller part. This is the result. This is the new website, which was done by a freelancer designer, Stefan Bruggmann, which does some freelancing and often worked with products, with us for products. And the bigger part is called the ABL back office, because we didn't find a better name with the customer, and Jonas can tell you something about it.
Yeah, this is where we get to the back office, where the whole workflow actually starts. This is some nice, or partly nice React application, where which is based on Flow, and stuff there. They can log in, they can manage and edit the available objects which people can apply them for, and most of the data here will be automatically imported via this IDX import from Abacus, and then this can be enriched by the staff. They have some edit forms where they can check if the image is correct and the floor plan. They can adjust the rent, increase, and then they can export the data which is sent to print shop to put it in a magazine, and after shifting some status, the apartment will be available on the website. This is now where we start on the website. A member can log in. They can see all the available apartments. They can choose what do they like, what is their most favorite, their least favorite apartment where they would want to live in. Then they can select, okay, continue with the application. They have to fill in some more details, give some additional information that is then required to review the application, and on the end, when they say I agree and everything, they will see the status of their application and proceed with with what's happening. Let's wait till the video finishes. Saved, and now they see this is my application, status is open, it still has to be reviewed, or they see if something is not accurate, or if they have to change something in their application. Of course, they can manage their other membership settings, like what kind of newsletter they want, if they want magazines as PDF or written by snail mail, and so on. Yeah, but we still have some members that require some legacy form of applying to something which is called paper. And during the process in this, while working in an agile manner in this project, we discovered, oh, this is really a problem, because they have piles of paper which they have to type in the computer. Then, of course, archive it, put it in a folder, and so on. Which we thought, okay, no, that's we have to do something about this. So this is what we figured out, is that we can, all this stuff that is sent by mail could be scanned, and then will be imported to our Flow application, to this back office. And then some fancy OCR application, the scripts, the scribbling, no, we're not there. But they have some a special view where they see all the incoming applications, and they can create applications on the left side and type in the stuff. For this, they have some huge 34-inch, 21-to-9-inch screens, which are, I guess, not from EIZO. But it's for them, it's really convenient to work with this stuff, and they have never to touch paper again. And after approving these applications and reviewing all the other online applications, they can start with the whole ranking procedure.
So, as I said, the ranking is a little bit special. So first we need to find out for each apartment who should get it if it's just done mathematically. So there are some asynchronous process here, because of course this is very expensive. So the Flow ecosystem offers a lot of stuff. One example is the Flow Pack job queue, which uses BeanstalkD, which is a really nice tool to execute asynchronous expensive jobs. So what they basically do, they calculate the ranking, and then they see for each apartment, for each of the 13 apartments, who wanted to apply. It's not real data, actually. I mean, it's real data, but we changed the names, we faked the names. So now we see who would get the apartment for each of the apartments that is available this month. And now you see that the lowest rank points you have, the more chance it's a malus system, so the more chance you have to get an apartment. And now they have the process of selecting who really gets the apartments, because there's some special rules. For example, families are preferred, or the more people the better, and they can assign the apartments to people. So this is the first one. This is a normal procedure, because actually the first gets the apartment, which is quite common, surprisingly. And also, of course, they have the freedom to say, no, I want to give this apartment to anyone else, for example, to the second place. So if they're through with it, they can say, okay, my ranking is definite, I don't want to change anything, and then we start generating notifications. So anyone should know which rank did I have, or did I get an apartment. So this is another process that we're doing, and once the notifications are generated, we see now in this month, in April, there were 120 people who got a notification. And we have the possibility, if needed, to do a manual edit to such a notification before we send it. So we have CK editor here in place where you could edit this stuff. And this is, for example, for someone who got the apartment, they get the information, they can go see it, and if they like it, they can take it. And if they're done, they say, okay, now I want to send all the notifications. And sending means we have some people that want to be notified by email, so they get an email. And other people, the paper likers, they will get a letter which we need to print. So if we process all these notifications, we have another short waiting time, and then we start sending the emails, which in my development environment goes to the mail catcher, of course, which you will see in a moment. Yes, so everyone gets their information about whether they got an apartment or not. And all that stuff is also saved for the future. So if we go back to the list now, we see that for every notification we have a file that we can download. And for example, those who get a PDF, for those a PDF is generated, which we could then download and view. This is also a flow package that we use for generating that stuff in Fluid. Now the process goes on. People say, okay, I want this apartment, or I don't want this apartment. So we go back, they go back, the staff goes back and says, okay, this guy here, he really liked the apartment, so his answer is yes, and he will send the contract. And then the process is done for this apartment. What we don't show for time reasons is if he would dismiss this possibility and say, no, I don't want it, he would hit the thumbs down button and they would notify the next person in line so they can go see the apartment. So sometimes it's now in use since the beginning of the year, so sometimes it's like number 5 or 6 who is getting the apartment. The better the apartment is, the more likely it is that the first in line gets the apartment. Yes, so I think it's no longer my take.
Let's talk about techniques. Yeah, for us, as we said, the whole application is it's based on 2 applications. One is the NEOS part, the website, and one is the back office part written in native flow. And for us, we had several considerations. For us, security was very important, and as we're lazy, we wanted to do it as easy as possible. And therefore, we decided to have all data stored in the back office. So all customer data, if it's their password, where they're living, how much money they paid to the to ABL, it's all stored in back office, which is secured by a firewall from the normal access through the internet, and the website itself only gets after a token. So when a user logs in, all requests are passed to the back office. NEOS itself gets a token where it can access the data where it's needed. So everything is by this way secured from direct access. A huge advantage by using this NEOS and Flow thing, as NEOS is based on Flow, is we could use the same, or a lot of the same code. We could use the same models, the same controllers, the same JavaScript and design and so on. Only the repository, or where the data come from, this was changed from NEOS to Flow. Yeah, what else do we see? We have a lot of applications, a lot of APIs, and some mail notifications, which were already mentioned. Here is an overview of some packages we used. Composer is to Composer. It's very awesome that we could reuse already existing stuff. We wrote some applications ourselves, for example, the IX import, and some special back office authentication provider, which does the whole authentication stuff in NEOS, which is then forwarded to Flow, which is not on GitHub, but maybe we can publish it in the future. And yeah, I guess that's it. So, are there any questions?
No.
Thank you then. So if you're ever in Luzern, we're still renovating our place, but come visit us. We have a lot of space, and yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you.